Hello all and welcome back. On the 5th of April, Evercade, via their website, announced that they were running a Game of the Month, which would be building towards the Indie Heroes Collection 2. The first Indie Heroes is hands down one of the best collections on the Evercade for me, and as such I'm really looking forward to this new collection. Game of the Month coincides with new features for the Evercade VS. Unfortunately for those who are handheld only, at this time it doesn't look like it will be available to you. The announcement says that for the rest of 2022, Evercade VS users will be able to play a new indie game that is brand new to the Evercade, completely free. This will be facilitated by a new firmware update on the first week of the month, which will download the new game to your VS and replace the one for that current month. The first game offered is a follow-up from the fantastic game Flea, which was on the Indie Heroes Collection 1. That game is Tapeworm. I've been planning on purchasing Tapeworm on either the Sega Dreamcast or the NES. I believe the Dreamcast 1 is being distributed by Wave Game Studios, who also distribute Flea for the price of $24.99, so I think it would be a similar price, and can also be purchased directly from Vortex Exe Store, along with the NES one, the Dreamcast one being £30, the NES one being £50. Again, it's also available for PC via itch.io and Steam. I was originally not going to play the Game of the Month games and just wait for the collection to come out. However, when this game came out first, it was one I couldn't resist the temptation to play. So let's talk about Tapeworm. Tapeworm, as I said, is a follow-up to Flea by Low-Tech Games. Interestingly, I was lucky enough to meet the man behind the game at Play Expo in Blackpool, and he had masses of time to talk about Flea with people. If you ever have the chance to speak to Alistair, I suggest you take that time. Tapeworm is a puzzle game where you play as the titular worm who lives in a cassette tape. The aim of the game is to guide the worm around the level, picking up musical notes, as well as helping the returning fleas get to their blood packs. You have two holes either side of the cassette that you can start your journey out of. Along with this, there are a few levels designed around helping a flea, comically named Fleeder, get from a point to get through a door using the worm's body as a bridge or a blocker to avoid hazards. The final level type is a boss battle of sorts, where the worm moves constantly forward around the level, and once again you collect the musical notes, avoiding the hazards. When you start a level, you have a certain number of squares that you can move the worm, which are indicated in the top left of the screen. Your aim is to get all of the notes and avoid the hazards such as the spikes or the moving enemies. And it starts out relatively simple, but the difficulty soon ramps up. As you go up the levels, other elements are added into the mix as well, such as this blue liquid which catapults you down the row that you're in, the aptly named wormholes which send you from one point to another. Also, depending on the direction you enter, that dictates the direction that you continue on. And also, there is a doubling of your worm, which is equal parts confusing and frustrating as it is fun. The boss battles, while sounding very simple, can take a lot of time to get used to, as you don't have a lot of time to plan out the route that you're going to take, as you would do with a worm in a static point. The fact that it's constantly moving can result in several retries. Given this is a puzzle game, you don't necessarily lose lives, you simply restart at the start of the level. Tapeworm takes its graphical styling very much from Flea. It has a very 8-bit look akin to some early NES games, and it sounds very chiptune as well. The soundtrack for the game is fantastic, and even though it's repeated throughout the levels, I found myself beginning to hum the tune rather than getting annoyed by it. All in all, Tapeworm is a fantastic game. Based on it not being as joypad-breakingly difficult as Flea, I would rate it as the better game all round. That's not to do a disservice to Flea, as that too is an excellent game. Tapeworm was great fun, and even though I've now completed all the 100 levels, I look forward to this collection coming out so I can do it all over again. I highly recommend for you to grab a copy of the game, even if you don't have the Evercade VS, but have other systems that you can purchase it on. If you're on the fence about playing it like I was as part of the game of the month and waiting for the whole collection coming out, I would highly recommend doing so in this case. You won't regret it. Anyway, thanks for listening to this Northerner go on about this game, and I will catch you on the next one.